what is up? It's your girl EgoDram with yet another art-related video. So, as you probably noticed in my past videos and certainly in my TikTok and Instagram posts, my studio's kind of a cluster. I know that's an issue, I am slowly working on it, but while I was working on cleaning out my studio the other day, I came across something I forgot that I had. I honestly don't remember buying it. Sometimes people just give me stuff to use as art supplies, which is great, which is fine, and I'm grateful, but sometimes they just wind up sitting there getting lost for a really long time. But look what I found. I don't remember buying these. I think someone might have given them to me a long time ago, but I figured, you know what? I may as well take them out and start playing with them. I mean, I'm not going to use them for anything else. The printer that I do have is kind of going to crap, but what the hell, may as well, right? And check out an experiment I did with one of them. Ta-da! There's an M40 gas mask, formerly used by the United States military, in which I was for 4 years. I know it's bent up and warped from the moisture of the ink and water wash that I used on it. Not really a whole hell of a lot I can do about that except use painter's tape, which I didn't think to do. But let's say, in today's episode, we make a few more experimental pieces like or similar to this today. Want to have some fun? Alright then, without further ado, let's get to work! So, as you can see, yes, my studio is still cluttered. Trust me, my brain is even worse. But what I've got here on the floor in front of me are some binder clips to keep the piece of Bristol board in place while I draw or ink or wash on it onto this smooth-sided piece of particle board. This is fairly resistant to moisture and water, which, considering I'm going to be using liquid ink for the first part of that, is going to be kind of important. One of my legendary repurposed jars full of clean, fresh water. And remember in my unboxing video where I pulled out a Sumi brush that I had just bought? Well, it was intended to replace this, which I thought I lost. And then I found it while I was cleaning my studio. Right around the same time I found the stack of Bristol board paper. So this is what part of what we're going to be doing today is washing with ink. Now in this repurposed tackle box, I have some sketching, inking, and calligraphy supplies. And a knife for some reason. And in this bag, which shouldn't surprise you at all, I used to work at a Hot Topic. I've got different kinds of ink. Drawing ink, calligraphy ink, just to show you a couple of what I've got. This walnut ink that you see in front of you is actually made from crushed up and boiled down walnuts. Yes, that is correct. This is in fact white drawing ink that I have never used since I bought it. These are calligraphy inks that I bought on the internet a very long time ago. The one on the left, I swear it's orange. It looks orange to me, like a tangerine. Tangerine orange. I swear to you that's what it looks like, but everyone tells me it's red. It could just be my eyes. And here we have actual Sumi ink. Why isn't it focusing? And here we have a container of actual traditional Japanese Sumi ink that is typically used on ink scrolls. Not woodblock prints, ink scrolls. Woodblock prints are awesome, but they are a completely different art medium. I have several books on them. I love them. So here's what we're going to do for our first experiment on this stray Bristol board paper. We're going to try to replicate the conditions in which that drawing I showed you earlier was made. We're going to do a different subject matter, of course, but let's just see how it goes. We got us a fresh piece of Bristol board paper. Let us begin with securing it with the binder clips. I know that this isn't going to be perfectly secure, but I've got the camera here mounted on a clamp that's clamped to one of my sketchbooks, about halfway through finishing the sketchbook. That's resting on top of the stack of Bristol board paper, but I took a few sheets out ahead of time. Okay, without further ado, let us continue. So here we go. Actually, this one's looking a little stained. I'm going to use the new one instead. So I decided not to use the old Sumi brush that you saw me holding up to the camera earlier because I had previously used it with some of the red ink in the background of that gas mask drawing you saw. So instead I'm going to use the brand new one. I'm going to dunk it in a little bit of this water here to try to... They put some sort of a coating on the bristles when they're brand new. That just, it takes a couple of dunks in water to really wash it out. So I think I'm going to go with a pretty green background. Now this says it's olive drab green, but when it dries it doesn't exactly look it. It's shimmery though. It's quite pretty. I'm going to take a small amount of water, basically just enough to saturate the tip of the brush without it dripping everywhere. And I'm going to just do a wash over the surface. Like so. And I can see areas of the paper where the water is kind of sort of shining back, of course, and dripping a little bit. You want to try to get the wash as consistent as possible. This isn't really the intended purpose of a Sumi brush, but for this type of work that I've done in the past, it's actually pretty well suited. I probably should have poured out a little cup of this stuff first, but I didn't. Just kind of, since it's already wet, it's going to blend and wash much, much easier. I should probably be a bit more gentle with this brush. Probably should have shaken the bottle up a little bit better too. And what I'm going to wind up doing is a couple of layers of this green, one on top of the other. About 3, maybe 4 times at the most, so that I get a nice solid one color finish. Because admittedly, this does not look great right now. It's not drying fast, the paper is just absorbing the moisture very, very quickly. Which, as you can see, is kind of starting to affect the quality of the wash. Right now, one of my art school professors is probably watching this and face palming so hard they just straight up pierce their skull with their hand. So this is just the first layer. You can see the brush strokes fairly well, but a couple more layers as this dries and gets layered and then dries and gets layered. And that shouldn't be quite so obvious. So while this first layer dries, we're going to move on to something else. For this next sheet of paper, while that other one dries, we're just going to do plain old regular drawing charcoal. I think I'm going to do a skull on this one. And what I have here is a repurposed cigar box that I turned into like a sketch kit, an on-the-go sketch kit. What the hell is a shower cap doing in there? See, I've got, for some reason I've got a chain, I've got drawing charcoal, I've got pens, I've got a paint marker, I've got Sharpies, I've got, if I want to bring my sketchbook with me on the go, I've got pretty much everything I need right here. Now this right here, I don't know if you can see it very well, is ordinary willow stick charcoal that I've kind of worn one side down completely to draw or to lay down a layer, a nice soft flat layer. Oh, but before I begin, this is a eraser and sharpener kit that I put together out of a pipe tobacco tin that I finished and just put various erasers and pencil sharpeners and these paper blender tool. It's covered in charcoal. I promise you it's not an unsmoked joint. It's tightly rolled up paper that's used for blending things. You'll probably see for yourself once I get started. Now, let's get back to business. I'm just going to hold the bottom part here for a little bit of stability. Alright, next, I'm going to make an even bigger mess and just use the tips of my fingers to blend the charcoal across the paper like so. See how it softens it up really nice? The kind of charcoal that you're using makes a big difference. Not all charcoal is the same. When it comes to drawing, that is. As for barbecuing, I wouldn't know. I'm a vegetarian. Don't worry, I'll spare you the politics. There. See? See that nice soft surface? Now that is going to erase easier than if I had used the more dense charcoal. You're about to see what I mean. But first, this might take a while, so I'll turn the camera back on in a few minutes, and you're going to see, once I have everything that I'm going to do laid out, then you're going to see for yourself what I'm going to do with it. I like drawing human skulls. Even though I'm not the best in the world at it, I like to think I'm pretty good. And yes, I am using a medical reference photo, or what appears to be a medical reference photo. There's nothing wrong with using reference photos. Some people freak out like, oh, you can't be that good of an artist if you have to use somebody else's pictures to... I'm not tracing the shit. I'm not claiming it to be my own. Jesus, I'm using a medical reference of a real human skull to base my own drawing of a human skull on. It's nothing worth losing your head over. Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers up your spine. I don't know the rest of the words. I just know all the memes, because I spend way too much time on the internet. And my husband's probably right about that. But I don't care, because I still love spooky, scary skeletons. Alright, so now that you see we have a general idea of a human skull here, drawn over the soft charcoal with this hard charcoal pencil. This came in a cheap-ass, like, artist's kit I bought online years and years and years ago. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the drawing. So now, here's what we're going to do next with our erasers. We're going to be erasing a lot of this. But it's going to look really cool. Check this shit out. It's going to change your life. This is an old kneaded gum eraser. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty versatile. It's almost clay-like, but you can't really tear it apart and smash it back together like with clay, but you can shape it, my nails look like shit, again, into almost any shape you want, and they last a good long while. Watch what I'm going to do with this next. We're actually going to be... See how that lightens up? You don't even need to press down really hard with this. Actually, you're not supposed to, because you're just mess up the shape that you've made. Check it out, huh? Check out that nice, soft, smooth, white space that you're getting from erasing everything you've just drawn. Cool, huh? See how well that works out? And I'm going to continue to work it out. And we're going to come back to this one, okay? So it seems my little studio assistant decided she wanted to help. Am I being supervised? Remember when I said that you'll get to see me use one of these? Check this out. This darker areas here, just to blend nice and smooth. Probably can't see it up close very well. I can't really move my camera all that much closer. But all those little sketch marks, those lines, this is a great way to smooth them out if you know how to do that. And theoretically, this works on pastel and graphite as well, but once you use it for a particular substance, like charcoal, you really shouldn't reuse the same one for a different medium, because then it gets cross-contaminated and it fucks up your drawing and it just looks gross. So I've been using this one for charcoal. Eep! No paw prints. We are not doing paw print painting today. Yeah, once you use it for one thing, don't use it for something else. Alright, so arguably not the best skull I've ever drawn in my entire career, and that's okay. This is just going to be for a demonstration. But we'll come back to this later. Hey, remember that other piece of Bristol board that I washed ink all over? I wonder how that's going along. Let's do another layer. We're probably going to wind up doing this quite a bit. Alright, that's another layer that's just going to have to sit and dry for a while. And we will come back to this and then switch out for the skull one again. Hey, remember this? While that second layer of ink wash is drying, we're going to do something really interesting with this skull. And that is, we're going to paint around it. This is closer to an actual olive drab green than that ink is. Am I seriously using the bottom of a repurposed jar as a temporary container for a very, very small amount of acrylic paint? Yes, I am. Because I'm disorganized as hell. And we're just going to very carefully paint along the edges and the outside of the skull to give it a sort of outline, but also a nice matte finish background, if you will, to sort of frame it. I might have to do a couple of layers of this. But it'll look cool once it's done, trust me, I've done it before. So in the meantime, while the paint and the ink are drying on those two projects I showed you there, I wanted to show you and tell you a little more about this first one that I did on the piece of Bristol board paper. Now, when you saw me do the ink wash earlier, I combined a little bit of the red calligraphy ink and the walnut ink together in a small little dish, dumped the sumi brush in some water, and I want to say it was like 3 layers worth of that in the background here. And with China marker, I drew this M40 Pro Mask, gas mask. I actually own one in the middle of the page once everything was dry, and it took quite a long time to dry, actually. So I started with the black to get the general shape, and then I very carefully took the white China marker around it, and then everything here, this beige color, is acrylic paint. Ordinary acrylic paint that you can get from Walmart or Target, nothing special. And down there, I always like to put my little signature block. It's your girl Ego Jam. Yep. I want to say, all in all, this was about 2 hours worth of work. Not drying time from the layering of ink notwithstanding. So by the time you see my pretty face next, the acrylic paint on the skull and the green layers of ink on the other piece of paper will be dry, so I will see you tomorrow, because I've got other shit to do. Sometimes I feel like getting all dolled up, sometimes I don't. I'm back. It's actually been a couple of days because I got waylaid by other projects and other situations I've had to take care of, but everything is layered, everything is dry. I would say things are almost done. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at the final result of our little experiments. Starting with the charcoal skull experiment. Not my absolute best skull, but I'm somewhat proud of this one. And again, this was started with soft willow charcoal on the surface, spread around, smooshed around with the fingertips, and then drawn another layer of hard charcoal pencil and kneaded gum eraser to get some of the lighter areas on the surface of that. Now, this layer of acrylic paint on of this olive drab green got dark and splotchy because it absorbed some of the charcoal particles that were on the paper, and it dried with the paint, kind of inconsistently. I was considering doing a second layer of the olive drab green acrylic paint on this one, but I'm not that emotionally invested in this. This was just an experiment. I wanted to find out what I could do, see what I could do with it, and well, I've seen what I could do, and it's been done. Now let's check the other one. Now, the label on the bottle of ink says olive drab green. 3 layers of ink later, I don't think that that looks olive drab green, depending on the lighting that I go with. As you can see, it warped the Bristol board just a little bit, which I figured would happen. And it took a day or two for all the different layers on top of each other to dry, on which I used China marker to draw this screaming mouth with. It looks kind of cartoonish, almost comic bookish, which I'm fine with. And then a layer of, it says khaki, I think it looks beige. I hate the color beige. Acrylic paint all around it, which, as you can see, because there was no powder or particulates of anything on the surface of the Bristol board here, it's not very splotchy. It's a nice matte finish, it's fairly smooth, but I'm actually not very happy with this picture. I know it was just an experiment. I feel like maybe I could have put a little more effort into it, even though it was an experiment. This is not my best work, and I know that. But if we don't try new things from time to time, we don't really learn, do we? I am still pleased as punch with this one. I am super happy about it. Hell, I'm not sure I want to sell it. I almost want to put it up on my studio wall somewhere. So this concludes another art video. I'm your girl EgoDram. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you will join me for more videos in the future. I might not just do art stuff, but I will do something that I hope will entertain a lot of you. In the meantime, have a good day, be good to each other. Mwah. Bye-bye!